Hey guys, I'm Ivory, and today I'm going to be doing a 2-day wear test on the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Soft Matte Powder Foundation. I'm going to be showing you how this applies initially, as well as checking in throughout the day to show you how it wears. For anyone that's new, as of right now, my skin is oily combo, but for most of my wear tests, I actually have just oily skin, and I am also an acne skinned angel. This just reminded me, someone commented on one of my older videos, like a wear test. They commented that the reason I have oily skin is because I eat meat, and I don't even know how this person knew that, because I don't think I've ever discussed what I actually eat on my channel, but she's like, the reason why you have oily skin is because you eat meat and you don't have any willpower, and if you really wanted less oily skin, then you would have some self-determination and stop eating meat, and you'll see that your skin will become drier. And I'm just like, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. So I wanted to pass that along to everyone else that is oily skinned. The reason why we are the way we are is because we eat meat, apparently. So just stop eating it, and then problem solved, I guess. But if you find that this review is helpful, I will link up in the cards a playlist of all the other foundations that I've done a review on. And also, I will be adding timestamps in my description box. That way you could just skip to whatever part you need to in this video. Before we begin, I want to address the elephant in the room. We have reached 5,000 subscribers, and I just want to welcome everyone that has joined. I hope you stick around, and also thank you to all the people that have been here for a long time. I screenshot every milestone that I hit on my channel, and I still remember the day that I hit 10 subscribers, just 10, to the point where I actually made a Reddit post about it. I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited, I got 10 subscribers, and here we are many subscribers later, and the excitement and the feeling that I get, it hasn't gone away. I hope it never goes away, but thank you so much for your... Millie wants to say thank you too, I guess. All right, let's actually get into the review. This is what the foundation will look like. It does contain a little mirror, and then if you flip it, there is a little applicator. I did do a dedicated video where I compared this foundation to the J-Cat Aqua Assurance, because that is a very popular powder foundation. I will put it up in the cards as well if you're interested. It's a real nail biter, if I do say so myself. And by that, I mean it really isn't. The product contains 0.32 ounces and retails for $36. As you can already tell, I did apply my makeup already. I already previously filmed the part of me applying the foundation, and then I had to leave and come back to do my intro, but I wanted to give context because the next clip that you're gonna see, I'm gonna be barefaced. All right, so I have cleansed my skin, and I went ahead and added moisturizer. If you don't typically moisturize before you add foundation, I highly recommend you do, even if you have oily skin. Adding moisturizer before foundation, not right before, like 10 minutes before you add foundation, is helpful, because when you moisturize your skin, your body thinks, okay, it's moisturized, I don't need to produce as much oil. But it also is important, especially for dry powders, because any dry patch you may have, especially in my case around acne, because the skin on top of my acne is usually very thin and dry, powder foundations especially pick up on that. So I always want to make sure that I moisturize so that the dry parts of my skin don't look as dry. So now that I've moisturized, I'm gonna go ahead and use primer. I'm gonna use two today. The first one I'm using is the Dermablend Pore Saving Matte Makeup Primer to all the problematic areas of my face, basically the center, because that is where I get the shiniest. And then with the remaining, I'm just gonna spread it outwards. And then in the same areas, I'm gonna use the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, just because I know how powder foundations are. They don't always lay on top of areas that can tend to crease easily and break up easily. They just don't lay as nicely as a liquid foundation. So I'm trying to help prep for this foundation as much as I can. I'm first going in using a brush. I'm using the Sigma Round Kabuki, which is the F82, and I'm just gonna press that in and use stippling motions. The shade that I'm using in the powder is 300. Now in the Fenty hydrating and the matte liquid versions of her foundations, I use the shade 290, but when I went into stores and I swatched the 290 powder and the 290 liquid, the 290 powder looked just a little bit too light compared to her liquid foundation. So I went ahead and leveled up to a 300, and I felt like shade wise it was closer. And then next I'm going in with a damp sponge, just because on the first day that I used this, I went in with the applicator that they provided dry, so I wanted to try with an applicator damp just to see if actually dampening it makes a difference. And this is a microfiber sponge from Juno & Co, and if you've been here for a while, then you know out of all my applicators, this is my favorite way to apply foundation, but I usually use liquids, so it might be different with the powder. I forgot to apply concealer again. I did this last time. It's because I always add concealer after foundation, so now that I have to do it before, I knew I would forget that too. Luckily, I don't add foundation under my eye, so I'm going to quickly add it, but I can't apply it to any of the other areas that I apply concealer because powder already is there. But that's okay. I mainly just wanted it under my eyes. All right, we are continuing. So this is one layer of foundation. You could see the brush side gave me pretty low coverage, lots of acne, scarring still peeking through. Like I have a lot of redness right here on my cheeks. So this is pretty low coverage. Whereas on the sponge side, it doesn't cover everything, but the coverage is better. So if you wanted more coverage, the sponge is the way to go. I have, like I said, used the applicator that they provided, and I feel like the coverage is about the same. So I don't think dampening it actually made too much of a difference. So if you don't have a sponge, you could use the applicator that they included and you'll probably get the same coverage as this. I'm gonna go ahead and add a second layer. Okay, so this is the second layer. I really only applied it to my cheeks and a little bit of my chin since there's some acne there. So those are the only areas where I wanted to add a little bit more coverage. Hopefully you can see this, but like I said, the acne around my skin is very dry. And even though I moisturized, the foundation still picked up on it. It looks super dry right here. And it's on this side too. It's just like pilling up. So I really don't think that this foundation is for dry skin, because even for me being normal oily, it's clinging on to all my dry patches. So if you have that all over the face, then this is gonna look pretty unflattering on you. I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward doing the rest of my makeup. All of the products that I am using will be listed in my description box below. Okay, so since I last applied my makeup, it's been 3 hours. Just to talk a little bit more about the foundation, they said that the coverage was medium full. To me, this is medium. I have to sneeze. I know this is random, but does anyone else have to look at a light source to sneeze? I've told a couple friends that and they're like, what are you talking about? If I have to sneeze, I just sneeze. And I had to explain to them that if I was on the brink of sneezing and I couldn't quite get there, I have to look at something really bright and then it pushes me to sneeze. Apparently only a small percentage of people sneeze that way, but me and my husband have to sneeze that way. Like we have to look at a light bulb or something bright to sneeze. Anyone else that understands what I'm saying, can you please comment so that I don't feel so weird and lonely? But anyways, like I was saying, the coverage they said is medium full. To me, this is medium. I did 2-ish layers and I could still see acne, and I really don't like to do more than 2 layers, whether it's powder or liquid. So if you have acne like mine, I am gonna guess that it's medium coverage for you. But of course, if you have clearer skin, it's probably gonna be medium full, just because people with clearer skin have less to cover up. So something that is medium to me will be full for them because they're just covering up perfection, like the lucky sons of bitches that they are. Also at the beginning, I was pointing out all my dry patches along my chin. Now that it's been a couple hours, my oils have mixed in. It is a lot better. I definitely could have added some setting spray to mix the foundation, but I just knew that in a couple hours, my oils were gonna come through and then kind of fix the dry situation, and it did. So now it looks way better. Actually, I feel like the foundation looks better than it did initially. I also wanna comment on how lightweight this feels. And I've said this before, powder foundations just feel way lighter on my face than liquid foundations. They're a lot more breathable. And because I get to skip the step of actually setting my face with powder, there's less product on my face, so it doesn't feel as weighed down. I am wearing this for 10 hours today, but I will check it in a couple hours to show you how it's wearing. All right, it is almost the 6-hour mark. Oil-wise, I feel like this foundation is doing really good. The finish of this is very natural. It's not overly shiny, but it's not also overly matte. I can see on my upper lip, I'm losing a little bit of coverage on my chin, on my nose, as well as my T-zone. It is a little bit hard to tell because the foundation is very close to my skin tone, but if you go up close, I can see the difference between what is my skin and what is the powder. It's not that bad, but I do notice it. This was the side with primer, and I actually think that it looks a little bit less shinier. The most obvious place is the high points of my cheeks where you would have highlight, and you can see like this side is duller, whereas this side I just have like a little bit more of a glow. So I do think that the primer actually helped keep me a little bit matter. So for what I can see, primer did make a little bit of a difference here. I'm gonna go ahead and blot. The blotting sheets I'm using are from Amazon, but I don't think they sell them anymore. So I will link an alternative that I actually prefer, and I will put those in my description box. But I'm gonna go ahead and just blot all the areas where I'm a little bit shiny. And you typically wanna blot sooner than later because your oils can sometimes break down the foundation so much that it's just to the point of no return. So doing it before you're super shiny is kind of like a prevention so that your makeup does last a little bit longer. And since this is a powder foundation, you can touch up with this, which is something that I would typically do when I used to wear powder foundations way more commonly. So all the places where I spotted that I was losing a little bit of coverage, I'm just gonna reapply a little bit. And blotting and just touching up a little bit has really refreshed my makeup. It looks brand new. So that is it for this check-in. I will come back at the 10-hour mark to give you my final thoughts for day 1. All right, we are 10 hours in, which means that it is the end of day 1. Since I touched up around the halfway point, I don't feel like I look overly greasy. But when we compare each side, so this was the primer side, I still feel like this, I can hear my dog, she's coming down. Hey baby, can you tell me what side looks shinier? What side? You're staying? So you're staying. Oh, you got an eye boogie. The rule is you can only stay if you're not super disruptive. Is that something that you can do? Do you think you can handle that, baby? It's not a huge difference. You could probably go without primer for this foundation, but I do feel like I'm not as shiny on my cheek area. So I do think that primer helped in this case, but it is not completely necessary. Getting up close, I did lose a little bit of coverage on my chin, and it's starting to crack a little bit. Not as much coverage has been lost, especially since I did reapply a little bit of the foundation back into this area, but I did that here too, and I seem to have lost the coverage yet again. Well, I guess it's because I did eat that sandwich. So I guess that makes sense. So I would say, excluding the mouth area, everything looks really good in terms of holding together really well and as far as oil production, but this area seems to be the Debbie Downer. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and touch it up again because I think about the scenario if I did have to wear this a little bit longer. Well, what I do, I would touch it up, right? So I'm just gonna add a little bit more coverage back here. Okay, so I was able to get back some coverage. However, you remember at the beginning when I first applied it and it was picking up on all my dry patches? That is happening again. So I either don't touch up and have it kind of cracking, or I do touch up and I deal with a little bit of dryness. Granted, this dryness will go away in a couple hours when my oils mix in, but I'm over here wondering which is the lesser of two evils in this case. And I guess I could get rid of the dryness situation by putting on some setting spray, but I'm thinking of touching up in the scenario that it's just something really small to put into your purse. Now I gotta add a setting spray to counteract the dryness. Now you have like more than one product in your purse. It's too much. So things for you to think about, and me as well, because I am gonna be wearing this for another day and I am still forming my thoughts, but to avoid redundancy, I am going to save all my final thoughts till the end of this video. That is all for now. I will see you tomorrow. All right, so day 2, I am going to prime using the same products that I used yesterday, but I also wanted to try it on the other side of my face, a different primer, just to see if it makes a difference. We're just playing around here. So I'm using the Dermablend again, but I'm switching sides. Yesterday I added it on this side. Today I'm going to add it on this side. And then on the other side, I'm using the Hello Fab Coconut Skin Smoothie Priming Moisturizer. Because I had the dry skin issue on my chin yesterday, I thought I would give this a try in hopes that it will fix that situation. I have used this primer quite a bit and I do enjoy it. It doesn't feel like just a straight up lotion. It definitely has a smoothing effect. It's not as smoothing as, say, a primer that is specifically made for that purpose, but it does have a little bit of smoothing and it also hydrates. So thought I'd give this a shot. And then on both sides, I am still applying the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. Again, I think this is necessary for me because I feel like a foundation will look better in areas that are quite porous and textured. And for me, at least, I feel like the foundation looks a little bit more polished with this underneath. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and, oh, I almost forgot concealer again, even though I made a post about it and I stuck it to my mirror so that my dumbass wouldn't forget today. I almost forgot again, but not today. And maybe because I remembered to put concealer in these two areas, unlike yesterday, maybe the foundation will stay a little bit better. All right, and now I can apply foundation. So while we're trying new things, I thought I would try applying it with a puff today. This one is the Tati Beauty Blendiful. I do still use this almost every single day, at least the days that I apply makeup. I do enjoy it, but I don't often use this to apply foundation. I usually use this to set my makeup, but I like how big this is, so I feel like I would get my makeup done faster. Okay, so I think the puff is actually my favorite way to apply this foundation because it went on super fast, faster than all the other applicators, and the coverage is about the same as the sponge, and I would say that the sponge gave me the best coverage. So if you have the puff, this is the way to apply it. This side was the side with no hydrating primer. I can still see this new blemish right here. The foundation covering it is flaky, whereas this side just looks normal. But of course we have to see what happens over time because as my oils come through, maybe this side will look worse over time because it's not a mattifying primer. But that's it for now. I'm gonna do the rest of my face off camera because I use the same products as I used yesterday. So I think that's it for this check-in. I'll see you in a couple hours. Okay, we are 5 hours in. Both sides look really good. I don't feel overly greasy. I'm gonna try and not touch up today because when I think about it, even though one of the nice things about powder foundations is that you can bring it to touch up, not everyone wants to do that. So I would like to see how it looks looks without me touching up at all today. And right now everything looks really good. I don't have a preference as to a side. This was the mattifying primer and this was the more hydrating primer. There really isn't a big difference in either of them. Maybe a little bit on my nose on the mattifying side. For whatever reason, right at this nostril, it's a little bit shinier than this side. But other than that, everything else looks the same. Nothing is breaking up on either side. Well, I guess there's a little bit of settling right here in my smile line, but that's really common at this point for me. Like, I'm not even surprised. This happens even with my best favorite foundations. It's not too bad. Actually, you know what? Let's like kind of just buff it out and yeah, there you go. So that's really it. Nothing super eventful. I will check in at the end of the day to give you my final thoughts. All right, we are 10 hours in. Okay, so here's the thing. Before I sat down to film, I was staring at myself in the mirror, kind of just like examining everything. And I noticed that I was shinier, but I didn't think it looked that bad. And then my husband walks in and he's like, "Are you about to film? You look super greasy. Like your makeup looks like it's about to fall off." Yes, that's exactly how he sounds. He sounds exactly like Cher from Clueless. So here I am thinking that I don't look that bad. And then Steve goes ahead and knocks me down a peg or two. So now I don't know what to think. Honestly, he's probably right though. But this is what it's gonna look like 10 hours with no touch-ups. As far as the hydrating primer versus the mattifying primer, yeah, I can't tell the difference if there is one. At first I thought the nose on the matte side was a little bit shinier, but now they've kind of evened out. So for me, I guess it really doesn't make a difference long term. However, I did feel like the moisturizing primer made the foundation look nicer right away. Reiterating, I have dry patches over my acne, and on the moisturizing side, after my makeup was done, this side of my face didn't emphasize all of the dryness. So I think a hydrating primer might actually be better so that you don't have to wait for your oils to mix in to get rid of the dry areas. I was worried that the hydrating side would look shinier at the end of the day, and that's not the case. So I think having the hydrating primer made it look better sooner with the same wear time. Hopefully all of that made sense. If not, well, there's really no way for us to communicate that right now. I also wanted to note that every single time that I've applied the foundation, I always forget to add concealer first, except for today. So I typically wouldn't have concealer in my T-zone and my chin, and I feel like the coverage is way better today because I remembered to put concealer first. It's still a little bit broken up, but the coverage is still there. It's not sheared out. And same thing on my T-zone. Yesterday I noticed that it was sheared out and I had to add more coverage back, but by having the concealer under, the coverage is still pretty much all there. So final thoughts about this foundation. I've tried it 3 times at this point. I like it. I don't love it. I like it. To be a little bit more specific, I think I love it for oily skin because it is really nice and matte, and even though I'm quite shiny right now, this is very easy to touch up and blot. If you're the type of person that would need concealer in conjunction with your foundation, I think that the coverage for the most part will stay and it will wear well. However, on the days that I forgot to add concealer, it did sheer out quite a bit. And if you're not the type of person that wants to keep this in your purse and touch up throughout the day, that may be an issue for you, and that's something I completely understand. Some people don't want to be bothered to have to reapply, so that's just something to keep in mind. I also appreciate that even though I am quite shiny, it does not feel heavy. Powder foundations typically feel a lot more lightweight than liquid foundations, at least in my case. The things I don't like about this foundation, like I said before, I really like this for oily skin, but I don't know if I like this for skin with acne or a lot of texture. It doesn't cover and it doesn't sit as perfectly as a liquid foundation. Definitely one of the better powder foundations that I've tried, but in comparison to her liquids, I still prefer the way her liquids wear, both on the way they apply as well as how it wears over a long span of time. As far as a recommendation, if you're hoping that this is better than her liquids and you already have her liquids, stick to those. Those are still better in my opinion. However, if you like powder foundations, I did enjoy this one. It's not my new go-to, but I do like how beginner friendly this is. It's definitely good for a everyday type of makeup look, but just keep in mind the cons that if you don't typically add concealer, you might lose a little bit of coverage and you might have to touch up. And if you aren't a fan of touching up, then this might not be for you. I hope that this review was helpful, and if it was, don't forget to comment down below what other foundations I should try next. Thank you again for all your love and support. I mean, what a great way to end 2020 by hitting 5K. I didn't even expect it. I didn't have that as a goal, so it was just an unexpected surprise. I hope you have a happy New Year's, and cheers to 2021. How am I gonna do a cheers without anything to cheers with? This'll work, right? It's a liquid. Cheers to 2021. Millie, I can't be playing fetch with you right now. All right, one time. Go fetch. She hit her head. Are you all right? Oh my God, it's fine. You're fine. All right, you hit your head. You're alive, okay? Just we just fed her, and for whatever reason, she's extra needy right after we feed her. I'm gonna ask that you ignore her. The alternative to this is that I lock her upstairs and you can hear her crying at the top of the stairs. So either way, she's gonna be involved in this video. So at least here, she's quiet. Excuse me. And then something's bothering on my nose.